Are you in despair, especially discouragement or disappointment in your spiritual life? Today's sermon title is How to Move Forward from Your Despair. Being a Christian is to follow Jesus Christ and to be a disciple of Jesus. But one thing you need to know about disciples' life is this. When you follow Jesus, you might encounter despair and discouragement. You wanted to know more about Jesus and started reading Bible this year maybe. But most of us would fail, would not accomplish the plan you had resolved the start of the year. If we had not started, we would not be disappointed. It is same for us and when we serve the church. In various ways, you would be discouraged because of lack of visible result or disappointed at yourself for lack of faith or ability. Now, what to do? How can we move forward from such despair? Among the disciples, Peter was the most passionate, but Peter alone denied Jesus 3 times. So Peter fell into despair as much as his passion. We learn today how the risen Lord appeared to Peter and restored his identity and his mission, his passion. And at the same time, we learn how to move forward from our despair. Number 1, we need to meet the risen Lord. Peter's passion was second to none. He wanted to be the first and the best in following Jesus. But contrary to that expectation, Peter failed miserably. Peter denied Jesus 3 times, but he had proclaimed that even though others would abandon you, I will follow you until I die. However, Peter's flesh was too weak to satisfy his passion and expectations for himself. We learn a quick lesson here. Excessive expectations and self-confidence would drive us to failure and despair. And such failure made Peter forget his identity as disciple and his mission as to bear testimony to Jesus' resurrection. And he went fishing to soothe his empty heart. John chapter 21 verse 3. Simon Peter told them, I'm going fishing. Oh, we will go with you, they replied. They went out, got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Like Peter, when we were disappointed at ourselves, we would forget our identity and mission as a Christian. And we snoop around meaningless things like the internet, games, shopping, or food. But we can't be satisfied with those things anymore. Only Jesus can fill our heart. And Jesus knows it, and he comes to us at such a time of despair. Verse 4, when it was already very early morning, Jesus stood on the beach, but the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. And verse 7, then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, it is the Lord. So Simon Peter, when he heard that it was the Lord, tucked in his outer garment, for he had nothing on underneath it, and plunged into the sea. When they got out on the beach, they saw a charcoal fire ready for a fish placed on it and bread. Peter really wanted to meet Jesus and ask for forgiveness and wanted to restore his relationship with the Lord after his denial. When he saw Jesus on the shore, he jumped into the sea and ran to the Lord. But he saw a charcoal fire. It was the same charcoal fire on the night Peter denied Jesus. The memory of that night made Peter despair again. Peter couldn't say anything about forgiveness. And such uncomfortable and awkward time went by. But finally, Jesus opened his mouth to remove Peter's burden and to confirm his mission afresh. Number 2. At first thing Jesus did was Jesus asked Peter let go of his self-confidence. Jesus foretold him that he would deny, but Peter couldn't accept it. Let's read verse 15 and 16. Then when they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these two? He replied, Yes, Lord, you know I love you. Jesus told him, Feed my lambs. Jesus said the second time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He replied, Yes, Lord, you know I love you. Jesus told him, Shepherd my sheep. Peter truly loved Jesus, and that's why he said, I would die with you. But Jesus said Peter would deny 3 times. So Peter couldn't accept this statement. But as a result, we know Peter denied Jesus. So that's why the Lord asked Peter, do you love me more than these people love me? If Peter had not denied Jesus, he would have replied, I love you, Lord, the most. But he couldn't say it this way because he denied. That's why he said, Lord, you know that I love you. Okay, think about. Even though Jesus foreknew Peter's denial, Peter's failure, he loved Peter to the end and died on the cross for his sin. So Jesus' love for Peter remains unchanged because he knew everything, even before his denial and after his denial. But one thing has changed. What? Through the Peter's denial, Peter's failure, his self-confidence was broken. He became humble. He knows that he would fail again. He cannot trust on himself anymore. That's why when the Lord asked the question with the love of agape, the Jesus question was, love agape is love of God, God's love, infinite love. But Peter answered with love of phileo, as a human love. So Peter confessed that he only loved Jesus with limited human love. We can apply this to ourselves here. Jesus knows our vulnerability, sinfulness, and our futures, even our future sins, right? Therefore, there's nothing to be wrapped, to be seen better before the Lord. And there is nothing to be too disappointed in when our sin is disclosed. That is who we are. Also, in the opposite way, do not break yourself when you do good, because Jesus knows your dark side of sinfulness hidden in your heart. We are naked before Jesus' eyes. So, the confession that says, the Lord knows everything of us. Nevertheless, He has borne the cross for us. The confession makes us give up our self-confidence and the desire to make us appear faithful. In this way, we can move forward, right direction in faith. And now Jesus renews Peter's mission, and he corrects wrong motive of following Jesus. Verse 17, Jesus said the third time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was distressed that Jesus asked him a third time, do you love me? And said, Lord, you know everything, my failure and my heart of love. You know everything. You know that I love you. And Jesus replied, I know that. If you love me, feed my sheep. Peter wanted to be the first in following Jesus, and this kind of mindset is not bad, but we gotta look at if that motive is pure and genuine. We often serve the Lord and work for the church to get our own satisfaction. We want to get a spotlight and human praises. Peter also did so. But by denying Jesus, he failed to get this satisfaction and he got disappointment. Now the Lord confirms to Peter the right motive for his work, his mission, his ministry. It should be love for the Lord. What is your motive in serving the Lord? If it is not the love for Him, you would despair again and again. Because as you serve the church, you might not see the instant result. Or you might not get people's recognition or praise. And when you fail to get the expectation or satisfaction you want to get from the ministry, you would quit someday. But if you serve the church in the love of Jesus, in obedience to His command, you would not be disappointed. And you keep serving the church. And if you serve the church in love of Jesus, then you would experience Jesus' love. That gives you satisfaction. Here's one more thing we need to be careful in following the Lord. We should not compare ourselves with others, and we got to focus on our own calling. Each one has been called in different task, different job, I would say. So Peter's desire to be the best starts with the comparison. From his words, even though others might abandon you, I will not. And here we can see Peter's attitude of comparison. Jesus said Peter would follow the Lord with the death of the cross. And that was the way for Peter to follow the Lord. It's not that pleasant, isn't it? That Peter look at John and compare himself with John and he asked this question. Verse 20. Peter turned around and saw the disciple whom Jesus loved following them. This was the disciple who had leaned back against Jesus' chest at the meal and asked, Lord, who is the one who is going to betray you? Wow. So John was so close to Jesus. He could ask this question, right? So when Peter saw him, he asked Jesus, Lord, what about him? Jesus replied, if I want him to live until I come back, what concern is that of yours? You follow me. Peter might not be satisfied his way of following Jesus, which is crucifixion. And he want to know about John's way of following Jesus Christ. And the Lord's answer is, none of your business. This is a bit harsh, isn't it? A minute ago, Jesus asked, do you love me, Peter? And now he said, none of your business. The Lord Jesus warns Peter because comparison would make Peter fail again. If you keep comparing your life with others' life, if you keep comparing how you serve the Lord and how others serve the Lord, then eventually you will lose your heart for the Lord. Or you're going to boast about your achievements and you want to seek your glory, and you will fail eventually. If you start comparing, you will miss the most important thing, Jesus Christ, in your life. When I came to the United States for study, I had a difficult time financially. When I saw someone who got support from the church or the parents, I envy them, and I was not comfortable to see them in a thought that God is not fair. But when I look back, it was God's plan, which is good for me, to train me to prepare God's servant. Are you in disappointment or despair because your family is poorer than others? Or your parents don't have a strong faith? Because of that, you might live a little tough situation. However, what Jesus wants to see is not visible outcome or achievements of your life, but your genuine heart and your pure love for Him. That's why He gave each one of us different tasks, and He wants to see how faithful you are for the mission entrusted to you, not to someone else. Let me close. Are you in despair? No worry. You have not failed. Well, you failed, but you have not completely failed, because you have decided to follow Jesus and you have encountered this difficulty. Unless you started your journey of faith, you would not have such despair. Unless you try to walk on the water, you would not encounter drowning in the water. Therefore, your disappointment and discouragement is an essential part of your spiritual growth. Now, at such a time, At first, you need to meet the risen Lord to restore your identity and your life's goal. And then Jesus helps you to get out of the drowning in despair, drowning of self-confidence and wrong motives and snare of comparison. He's gonna pull you up out of that sea of despair, and you can walk with the Lord in faith again. So I'm gonna summarize 3 things you gotta be cautious not to be fall into. First thing, self-confidence. You should confess. You should remember this. Lord, you know that I love you. And also you know that I'm weak. So you know my limitation. And same time, I know my limitation. And check your motives of following Jesus. Is it from love of Jesus or self-satisfaction? Make sure you're serving the Lord, you're following Jesus. It should be love of Jesus. And do not compare. Jesus warned us this way. What concern is that of yours? You follow. You follow me. I hope the risen Lord time to time appear to us and correct us to move forward from despair to mature faith. Thank you.